CTV News at 5 with Hudson Mack.
A Victoria climate scientist is testing his theories in the political arena. Dr. Andrew Weaver took to the airwaves on our radio partner CFAX 1070 this morning to announce he is seeking the Green Party nomination in Oak Bay Gordon Head. He'll take on longtime incumbent Liberal CHONG. Weaver was born and raised in Victoria, but he's known around the world. In 2007, he was a member of Al Gore's team, winning the Nobel Peace Prize for an intergovernmental panel on climate change. Weaver says he doesn't want a band-aid solution, but a long-term solution to many problems facing society these days.
There is one word I think that's characterized my desire to do this. It's the word sustainability. But sustainability means we are always fixated on policies that actually are giving us a quick fix solution. That is, how do we get ahead for tomorrow and not think about the longer term consequences? So that whether that be economic sustainability, social sustainability, or environmental sustainability. So it's really marrying the three and saying, okay, well, how are we going to position ourselves for the next several decades, as opposed to how do we position ourselves for the next 4 years at least.
Weaver is the Lansdowne Professor and Canada Research Chair in Climate Modelling and Analysis in the School of Earth and Ocean Sciences at the University of Victoria. Liberal MLA Ida Chong says she's looking forward to seeing her competition's platforms heading into the next election.
You're very high profile. He's high profile in the community. Going to make a bit of a difference, make it a tighter race?
It certainly will depend on the policy platforms that come forward. You know, our government has laid out what our agenda is: jobs, economic growth, making sure we maintain our AAA credit rating. I don't know what the NDP's plans are, and I'm sure the Green Party will bring out their plans soon.
Chong, Weaver and the NDP's Jessica Vanderveen will square off in the next provincial election in May of next year. Premier Christy Clark is trying to clear the air after slamming Victoria to a newspaper reporter, calling it a sick culture with no real people in it. This morning, Clark called into our radio station partner CFAX 1070, saying her comment was torqued and taken out of context. Clark told radio host Al Farabee politicians need to reconnect with British Columbians instead of locking themselves in a bubble at the BC legislature. She says when politicians spend too much time at the Parliament buildings, they start coming up with ideas such as the HST.
People have developed, for some legitimate reasons, real suspicion and distrust of their own governments at all levels. And I think really the only way we can fix that is if we get outside the precinct and talk to real people. What I think is unhealthy is sitting in there yapping at each other all day and starting to believe that what you're talking to each other about is important. That is how we got the HSTL. That is how the government convinced itself that the HST was a great idea without going out and talking to British Columbians about it, because they were holed up in the buildings and weren't spending enough time connecting with the people. I am determined not to make that same mistake.
The NDP says blaming the culture in Victoria for the HST is just making the situation worse, and says the Premier should simply apologize for her comments. A marijuana advocate is going to BC voters in an attempt to decriminalize pot. Dana Larson launched a failed bid for the NDP leadership last year. Elections BC has now given him approval to launch an initiative petition. Larson will have 90 days to gather more than 10% of voters' signatures, which would give him the support required to initiate a legislative proposal to change the Police Act. The change would prohibit police from using their resources to help prosecute adults for possession and use of marijuana. Larson says he hopes to use the petition to campaign for a larger initiative to repeal marijuana prohibition laws or give BC an exemption. We'll have to wait a bit longer to learn who will build the new Johnson Street Bridge and when. The city has extended the deadline for bids to October 18th. Victoria Mayor Dean Fortin says the longer window gives proponents more time to come up with better bids. In July, the city told CTV News bridge construction could begin by late fall. That doesn't look like it will happen, but the mayor maintains the project will be completed on time.
When they actually physically start building the cofferdams and pouring the concrete, that's left to the winning proponent. They're going to provide that, but they know that we have a fixed date when it must be completed, and that's the one that they're working forward to. Other people come up to me, my God, Mr. Mayor, can we just rip the bandage off and start the construction? We'll recognize that this is part of the construction process, but we prefer to have a certainty as opposed to an early start.
Work to move a TELUS communication line from beneath the bridge is now complete. The city is now planning to go in and do some more geotechnical analysis. Next month, staff will pore over the 3 proposals.
Staff will then spend, well, as little possible time, but the most important thing, getting that information after the evaluation to Council. Council, they will recommend the preferred proponent. Council will accept that recommendation and then move forward to developing a fixed price contract.
There is a possibility none of the bidders will be able to build the bridge the city wants without going over the close to $93 million budget. At this point, the bids are being kept confidential. Now, part of the project involves moving the old train station building at the base of Johnson Street. The city received only one proposal to relocate the station and says it will reveal the details of that bid soon. An historic house originally slated for demolition is giving new meaning to the phrase detached home. The massive house on the corner of Richmond Road and Oak Bay Avenue is literally cut in half. Crews began slicing the building in early August and cut the final beams this morning. They collectively held their breath while they watched to see if their handiwork was a success and to see if the building would talk to them.
What do you mean when she talks to you?
That's a wood breaking, cracking, groaning, things settling. But since we did so much shoring up on the inside, it just came apart like butter.
Each side of the house weighs an estimated 60 tons, so it will be slow going to the new lot on Pemberton Road. The 2 halves will be loaded onto a flatbed trailer Saturday for the trip down Oak Bay Avenue around midnight. The goal is to get it to the new lot by noon Sunday. When in place, the historic home will be turned into rental suites. UVic students were taking it all off, literally for a good cause today. Youth Against Cancer and the Big Ideas Club hosted the 2nd annual UNDIE run. Participants stripped down to their underwear and streaked for cancer. The fundraiser is to raise awareness of cancers below the belt while collecting donations for the Canadian Cancer Society. Students say showing a little skin is a good way to shed light on a private problem.
People to realize that 50% of cancers are all preventable, and that running around in our underwear, we're not doing it just to be half naked. It's to realize to know your body and get checked out.
It's really we want to let everyone know. We want people, especially at a young age, to start taking care of themselves, start eating healthier, stop tanning, all these things to prevent them for themselves and for their close friends in the future.
Organizers say they have raised more than $600 so far this year. Air Canada is getting set to add about 1,100 people to its workforce, including 200 at a low-cost carrier it plans to launch next year. Right now, Air Canada employs about 27,000 people and will hire about 400 new flight attendants and 500 airport customer service agents. For the new low-cost service, Air Canada aims to hire about 50 pilots and 140 flight attendants. Not to be left out, WestJet also plans to launch a regional service that will start up next summer. U.S. watchdog group Consumer Reports has tested more than 60 popular rice products and found some contain significant levels of arsenic. The group claims brown rice was particularly bad. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration says its own preliminary research is consistent with Consumer Reports' investigation, but it has found no evidence to suggest rice is unsafe to eat. American consumer groups are lobbying the Food and Drug Administration to limit the amount of arsenic allowed in rice and other foods. A jury has awarded a Colorado man more than $7 million U.S. in damages after he developed a chronic condition known as popcorn lung. The 59-year-old claims he got sick from inhaling fumes from a chemical used in flavoring the popcorn. He ate several bags a day for years. A stolen rickshaw that had many people up in arms quietly made its way back to the place it was taken from overnight. The decorated rickshaw, originally from Bangladesh, was heading to the auction block to raise money for the Tour de Rock before it vanished earlier this month. It had been locked up in front of 10,000 villages in Broadmead, but last night the rickshaw mysteriously reappeared.
Thought for sure it was gone. And to have it back is just really fabulous because we were planning to donate it to Cops for Cancer, the Tour de Rock, and to have it back, to actually give to them, and to have it their October 3rd auction is just really fabulous. We're super stoked.
The rickshaw is expected to raise around $1,000 in this year's Tour de Rock auction. The defense team at CFB ESQUIMALT has come up with a tactical plan to support families in the capital region. Uniformed and civilian members of CFB ESQUIMALT are partnering up with the United Way for its annual Government of Canada Workplace Charity Campaign. The fundraiser kicked off today at the Naden Drill Shed, where more than 100 vendors were showing off products at the Industrial Trade Show. The DND's goal is to raise $700,000 for social programs in Greater Victoria in support of the United Way.
We've been fortunate in our careers to travel around the world, and we've seen what other folks don't have. We're very fortunate what we have in Canada, and it's a good being my position as the base commander here. Because I've been fortunate to live throughout the country and travel throughout the world, I've seen what other folks don't have, and I'm trying to bring that sense of volunteerism back to our folks to understand what they have and they can appreciate in the community.
D&D runs our largest campaign, and they just announced their goal, which is well over 10% of our total community goal. They have, over the last several years, raised literally millions of dollars for this community. So they're an amazing partner to the United Way.
The United Way is aiming to raise $6 million for its 2012 campaign in Greater Victoria. Patients at the Seven Oaks Tertiary Mental Health Facility are reaping what they've sown and now have a bountiful garden to prove it. For the past 6 months, patients and people serving community service have been planting crops in the Blenkinsop Valley, watching herbs, vegetables, and flowers flourish. The food garden was created to help people suffering with mental health issues or addictions to have therapeutic grounds.
I love it. Gives me something to do, gets me out of the house. Yeah. Get to grow fresh vegetables to eat.
My mom has been gardening here for about 6 months, and she thought it'd be a good idea for me to come and learn a bit more about gardening. So far I've been able to bring home a lot of fresh vegetables and cook with them.
The community garden is also open to the public. The Patient Care Centre at Royal Jubilee Hospital got a little brighter today thanks to a colorful piece of art donated by renowned Métis artist Frank Lewis. The piece, titled Honoring Creation, will be on display in the first All Nations Healing Room at the hospital. Lewis says the painting conveys the wonder of life and shows important Métis healing rituals with a modern twist. He says he purposely steered away from the traditional beaded art the Métis people are famous for.
Added part of the traditional pattern to the painting, but on the whole I wanted to have modernity. And in that, it gives example to the younger people to go out and be part of the culture and be part of the society, have a great tradition, but live in the present.
The Victoria Hospitals Foundation says honoring creation will help all patients and their families connect with their spiritual side and aid in the healing process. A 1-ton piece of glass fell 36 stories from a Vancouver construction site today, smashing onto a car on the street below. No one was hurt, but neighbors are furious, saying they've been complaining about debris falling from the building over the past few days. The accident today may have been caused by an issue with a suction cup.
There's a piece of glass that came down from one of the higher up floors, and it landed on this car, but it could have happened to anybody that was standing there. I mean, my God, it scares me to death to think that something like that can happen.
WorkSafe BC is now investigating. RCMP in Port Alberni are looking for a man who sexually assaulted a 17-year-old girl at the Hospitality Inn. The girl was from a house and was in town for the Alberni Valley Fall Fair on September 9th. She awoke in her hotel room to find a man assaulting her. After the attack, he left the room and couldn't be found. He's described as Caucasian, possibly part First Nations, in his 20s with medium brown curly hair cut into an afro. He was heavy-set and appeared to be in his 20s. There were some frightening moments at a NANAIMO elementary school today after a potentially explosive situation. When staff arrived at Departure Bay Elementary this morning, they noticed a rotten egg smell that they thought could be a gas leak. Students were kept outside while firefighters checked the entire school with a gas meter, but no leak was found. Firefighters say the scent could have come from somewhere else, but it's always best to be on the safe side.
Sometimes we do get a little bit of smell from Harmac, especially we've had predominantly northwest winds for the last few weeks, and it's we've got a slight southeast right now, so being the school up a little bit higher, I think it probably could be Harmac they're smelling.
Fortis BC was called in to double check, but the gas company couldn't find a leak either. The Boys and Girls Club of Central Vancouver Island is leading by example and revamping its teen centre to help youth in need. A community project will launch this fall to improve the club's Southside Teen Centre while rebranding its image as a good place to be. The clubhouse has received more than $6,500 from the Home Depot Canada Foundation to restore its centre. The project will include painting, landscaping and creating more green spaces.
We've always had a teen center here on our 5th Street location. For sure, looking at first glance when we first started the project, it definitely needs some TLC. So it's a 4-stage process for us. The first stage being painting, so it's all being repainted. Second stage is they're building a stage where teens can actually perform their various arts. Third stage is they're going to focus on the heating and cooling system to improve the heating and cooling. And the last stage will be some new furniture and some blinds to ensure that we've got some privacy for the teens.
The Boys and Girls Club will offer programs for youth to gain hands-on experience in project management and skills such as budgeting and achieving goals while letting them feel comfortable in their own skin. Families in the Oceanside area are welcoming a new addition with open arms. Parksville's new $7.1 million family place officially opened its doors today. The new facility has everything under one roof: a public health nurse, First Nations programs, and a number of wellness and education services. The province is calling it a one-stop shop for families.
From early childhood learning to immunizations and other family health services and other programs that families need in the community and where they need to reach out to one of our ministries or one of our areas, and it's a really welcoming place, and it's a really I think fantastic example of how we can achieve better outcomes when we work together.
You know, it's easy to get these things going when the community's behind something and they see a great cause and a great service to provide for families.
The multifaceted facility also features a play area called Munchkinland Discovery Center. It's an area where children ages 1 to 6 can play after a routine immunization or while parents attend counseling or nutrition seminars. Staff say it's a place where kids can learn while having fun.
It's learning based on play or learning through play, and so all the activities that are here are to develop early learning through language development, early literacy skills, that kind of thing. So each of the facades that will be built will be geared towards bringing out the best in children.
I've been using the programs that they have offered for years and years with my own kids. I've used Munchkinland, Mother Goose, the WOW bus, try to get the girls' dad onto the Dad's Night Out. Not sure how that's working out yet, but they offer so much, and it's an invaluable asset to this community. I don't know where we would have been with all these wonderful programs. My children have learned so much, and I've learned so much as a parent just from the help that they offered to me, the advice they give.
Family Place is the first of its kind in the province, a partnership between the government, the Vancouver Island Health Authority, and the Qualicum School District.